You're home alone. The room is empty, the door's shut, the lights are low, and suddenly, the back of your neck prickles. That feeling of someone's gaze, dead center between your shoulder blades. You turn around, nobody there. Same room it was a second ago. But the feeling doesn't go away. Sound familiar? This sensation is so universal it actually has a scientific name, sense of presence. And here's the question that's about to mess with your head today. If there's genuinely no one there, where is your brain even pulling this feeling from? Who's generating it? And more importantly, why? Let's start with this. Your brain is literally packed with a specialized system dedicated to one single job, figuring out whether someone's looking at you or not. Neuroscientists call it the gaze detection system, and it's largely wired into a region of the cortex called the superior temporal sulcus. British neuroscientist Nathan Emery, back in the early 2000s, described in detail how humans and primates have dedicated neurons that respond specifically to the direction of someone else's gaze, not to the face as a whole, but specifically to where the pupils are pointed. This isn't a side effect of vision, it's a dedicated, evolutionarily ancient detector. And here's the first real twist. This detector is calibrated with a massive bias toward false positives. And that's not a bug, that's a feature. Picture this. You're an ancient primate on the savannah. A bush rustles. Option 1, there's actually a predator there and you miss it. You're dead. Option 2, there's nothing there and you react anyway, flinch, turn around. You've wasted a couple of seconds for nothing. The cost of these two mistakes is wildly asymmetric. So evolution tuned the system to be wrong 100 times in the direction of someone's there rather
I can't
than
see
miss a
anything!
real threat even once.
Don't
You're
touch
not
it.
paranoid.
Let me help you.
You're just carrying around an
I
alarm
need to
system
see.
that's built to go off at the slightest rustle because missing one predator was too expensive a mistake to make even once. But that's only half the story. The real unsettling part kicks in when your senses start contradicting each other. Swiss neuroscientist Olaf Blanke, in a 2014 paper published in Nature Communications, ran an experiment that sounds like something out of a horror script. Blindfolded participants were asked to move their hands, controlling a robot in front of them.
Why did it just
while
get so cold in
a second robot
here?
with a slight delay mirrored their movements behind their back, lightly touching them. As long as the delay was synchronized, everything felt normal. But the moment Blanke introduced a fraction of a second lag, participants' brains stopped recognizing the touch as an echo of their own movement and started interpreting it as someone else's. Over a third of the participants explicitly reported feeling a stranger standing behind them. Some asked, in genuine distress, for the experiment to stop. Nobody was physically there, just a glitch between what the body was doing and what the skin was feeling. And here's an honest scientific caveat worth stating plainly. The sense of another presence most often arises from exactly this kind of mismatch between proprioception, your sense of your own body in space, the vestibular system, and vision. Exhaustion, sleep deprivation, isolation, extreme stress, or cold all throw this synchronization off. Solo mountaineers at extreme altitudes routinely report the exact same thing, the sensation of an invisible third companion walking alongside them. Scientists actually have a name for it in the literature, the third man factor. This isn't mysticism, it's the price the brain pays when its sensory systems are pushed to their limits and stop perfectly lining up with each other. Now about infrasound, and here we need to be maximally honest. There's a famous story from 1998. British engineer Vic Tandy was working in his lab and kept feeling an unexplainable presence and cold, catching a gray shadow in his peripheral vision. Investigating the cause, he found a source of infrasound in the room, vibrations at roughly 19 hertz, nearly matching the resonant frequency of the human eyeball. Tandy proposed that infrasound at this frequency could cause a microscopic vibration of the eye, making peripheral vision blur and produce vague, moving shadows, essentially a visual artifact that the brain instantly completes into the shape of a person. The story was published in the Journal of the Society for Psychical Research and has since become a popular science go-to explanation for haunted locations. It's important to say this plainly. This is a single, unreplicated case under strictly controlled conditions, not an ironclad universal law of physics. It's a plausible hypothesis with real physiological logic behind it, not a confirmed fact that applies to every eerie room. Science is honest here. The mechanism sounds credible, but generalizing it to any spooky room is already speculation. What happens next, though, is on much firmer ground. Once the brain suspects a presence, another mechanism kicks in. Pareidolia, the brain's tendency to complete a vague, incomplete visual signal into a recognizable shape, most often a face or a figure. It's the same mechanism that makes you see a face in a car's front grille or a human shape in the tangled shadows of a curtain. The brain hates ambiguity. It would rather finish a silhouette in the corner of the room than leave a sensory signal unprocessed. And the moment pareidolia teams up with an already primed gaze detection system, you get a perfect storm. The gaze detector is shouting, "You're being watched." Peripheral vision is feeding it a vague blur, and the brain happily stitches that into a full, detailed figure, as if you'd genuinely just seen it with your own eyes. And here's where the real philosophical twist comes in. Let's say, physically, there's nobody in the room. But while you're standing there, frozen mid-turn, heart pounding, your body is dumping cortisol into your bloodstream, your pupils are dilating, you are genuinely preparing to encounter someone. For your nervous system, in that exact moment, the difference between someone is actually there and the brain decided someone is there is practically zero. Philosopher David Chalmers called subjective experience what it's like to experience something from the inside, something that can never fully be reduced to external facts about the world. And here's the simple, uncomfortable conclusion. From the standpoint of your consciousness in that moment, the sense of presence is real. It's no less real just because its source is inside your skull instead of outside it. Consciousness doesn't check the source of a signal before reacting to it. It reacts to the signal itself. So next time the back of your neck betrays you in an empty room, you're not losing your mind. You're just carrying around an ancient, extremely cautious alarm system that would rather be wrong 100 times than miss a real threat even once. It's not broken.
Get it
it's
off!
doing exactly what it was
I
built
can't
to
see
do.
anything!
If this video made
Don't
you
touch
glance
it.
over your shoulder
Let
at
me
least
help you.
once, hit
I need to
like,
see.
subscribe,
Get it
and
off!
tell us in the comments
I
whether
can't
this
see
has happened to
anything.
you, specifically in the
Don't
dark,
touch it.
at home,
Let me
alone.
help you.
I need to see. Get it off! I can't see anything!
Don't touch it. Let me help you.
I need to see. Get it off! I can't see anything!
Don't touch it. Let me help you.
I need to see. Get it off! I can't see anything!
Don't touch it. Let me help you.
I need to see. Get it off! I can't see anything!
Don't touch it. Let me help you.
I need to see.